I discovered my husband's been secretly dating multiple women and lying about it for years, and I'm going to keep talking before my good sense tries to drag me offstage by the ankle. I'm Nia, I'm 33, and I'm a data analyst, which is cute because I spend my workdays teasing truth out of messy columns while my own marriage was a spreadsheet full of hidden tabs and VLOOKUPs that pointed straight to make-believe. It didn't start with perfume or lipstick or a stray earring like in the dramas. It started with an Uber receipt that didn't match the hour I kissed him goodnight. 2:37 a.m. drop-off at a street he calls that little block by the neon laundromat, which, yes, has a laundromat, but more importantly has a boutique hotel with hushed carpets and staff who hand you secrets in the shape of room keys. The receipt sat in our joint email like a little square confession. I clicked it. My stomach did a small, precise drop, like an elevator practicing honesty. I stared at the map and whispered, "Okay," to the quiet apartment because I talk to data and it usually talks back. I didn't confront him. I created columns. This is how I brace for impact. A fresh Google sheet, 3 tabs, facts, stories, actions. In facts, I logged the Uber, the time, the price, the tip like he was rewarding himself for discretion. I added 2 sudden trips for the conference, a new shirt that looks motivated, the return to the gym where he mostly photographs mirrors, and the way he started saying "you deserve better than me" when I asked him to grab milk. In stories I typed his bored, his pathetic, his terrified of being ordinary. Then I deleted all 3 because I refused to let adjectives set the pace when I don't yet have counts. Work taught me to love boring verbs. So I pulled bank statements. I exported 3 years. I set the kettle on because tea is legal comfort. I filtered transactions for restaurants he doesn't like but suddenly visited twice a month. I cross-checked with my own calendar, where was I on those nights? Trivia with friends. Yoga. A shift covering for Maya. My generosity has always been an accomplice. I joined the card charges to his location history, then to my memory of our arguments, tiny flare-ups over nothing that now glowed like flares in the night sea. When the lines began suggesting a pattern, I did the thing I hate. I looked at his phone. I'm not proud. I'm also not sorry. He was in the shower rapping off key, and I opened the messages app the way you crack a safe when the room is filling with water. This was not one woman and a bad story. This was an orchard. Separate threads with identical arcs. Hey stranger, when are you free? You deserve to be valued. A photo from the hotel hallway carpet like a signature. Names: L, Tam, B, Viv from ceramics, Anna with 1 and Sophia yoga. All of them with small inside jokes that weren't inside to me. Emojis lined up like breadcrumbs. A photo of a half-eaten cheesecake with round 2 typed on top. He had a whole template kit in his head, a male merge of desire and flattery. I set the phone down gently, wiped a non-existent smear from the screen and stared at our bathroom door. Water hissed, romantic if you didn't know it was rinsing off 1,000 lies. I could have crashed in, stormed, thrown his towel into the yard like a sitcom in an exorcism. I did not. I put the kettle off the heat and opened a new tab, people. I typed every name. My stomach stopped being a drum and became a quiet, effective calculator. I wrote overlap and the math said yes. Not a sequence. A lattice. He came out damp and buoyant, kissed my head, asked if I wanted to watch the documentary about whales we'd been saving like a treat. Sure, I said, and my voice stayed casual like an umbrella. He passed me a mug and settled in with his blanket, feet on the coffee table, domestic as a brochure. And I sat next to this man I had loved for 8 years, who knows my social security number and the funny face I make when I clip my bangs, and I watched blue giants glide across the screen while the numbers in my head rearranged themselves into a story that didn't love him. I texted Maya, my best friend who swears like a minister in private and prays like a sailor in public. I have a situation, I wrote. Bring strawberries. And a functioning moral compass. She knocked with both 5 minutes later because some friendships contain a teleport feature. I spread the printouts like a detective ruining a dining room. She listened the way good people do, the face that says I'm with you, the body that says I will not leave. Are you okay? She asked, which is a formality like how's the weather when the sky is on fire. Not yet, I said. But I know how to be okay eventually. It's the meantime that needs a plan. We designed one sitting cross-legged on the floor, two women conducting a rescue on a coffee table. Phase 1, gather and secure data. Phase 2, confront with verbs not adjectives. Phase 3, decide with a nervous system, not a movie. I made a folder called Audits, because dark humor builds a bridge between the known and the screaming. I confronted him on a Tuesday because Tuesdays have fewer witnesses. I left the printouts in a neat stack on the table and sat at the kitchen counter shelling pistachios like I was extracting truths. He walked in from a shift, kissed the air near me, and stopped. He looked at the stack. He looked at me. He did not perform surprise. The small mercy of our catastrophe. He Saturday okay, he said. Okay. How long? I asked. My voice did not shake. It was an instrument I didn't know I played. He stared at his hands like they'd betrayed him. I don't know where to start, he said, which is a sentence I hear from junior analysts when they've messed up their queries and are tempted to romance me instead of fixing the schema. Between 2 and 4 years, he said finally. On and off. I stopped for 6 months last year. He blinked at his reflected face in the microwave like it might vote. Then I started again. How many? I asked. He swallowed. 6? 8, he said, as if giving a range might make him sound conscientious. I slid the list across to him without theatricality. 12 names. He flinched like paper had teeth. Some of those were just flirting, he offered, and I admired the reflex to minimize even as I wanted to staple it to a wall. What did you tell yourself? I asked. He exhaled, and for once he chose to be stupidly honest. That you're better than me and I'd ruin you. That we were stuck in a loop and I deserved something. That I could keep you as home base and still audition for a more exciting version of myself elsewhere. That I could stop any time. He rubbed his eyes. That you'd never look. I thought of all the times I had told him things I wanted because I thought it would make them less likely to go rotten in the dark. More little trips, less obligation disguised as romance. A Saturday where we didn't pretend errands or foreplay. You could have said I'm lonely inside our life, I said. You could have said I'm scared of turning 35 and becoming a couch ghost. You could have said I need you to want me out loud or I need therapy. You could have asked for pizza without making it a moral referendum. He nodded like a student caught cheating and grateful the teacher still knows his name. I could have, he said. I didn't. The ugly grace of that sentence. It landed and didn't break. I want your phone, I said. I want passwords. Not as a hobby. As a bridge we'll walk for a while because the ground is lava. He slid his phone across and said passwords like a prayer. And your calendar, I said. He nodded. And you're going to write to each of them while I sit here and tell the truth, and you're not going to perform your guilt like a monologue. You're going to close doors you threw open and then ran away from. Then you're going to call a therapist. Then you're going to go stay with your brother for 2 weeks while I see if the house still likes me. He did those things with the slow obedience of someone who finally trusts consequences. The messages were plain. I lied to my wife. I'm ending this. Do not contact me again. A few fired back weapons disguised as wisdom. She never gave you what you needed, wrote one, the one he'd met at the gym. I typed back from his phone, he never asked, and blocked her. Another sent a long, heartfelt inventory of how he had saved her from a loneliness I recognized. I wanted to hate her, I couldn't. We had both been sold solutions labeled special. He left. I stood in the quiet apartment listening to the building breathe. I opened windows. I pulled our sheets off the bed, not as a cleansing ritual, just because sleeping on clean cotton makes decisions 4% less impossible. I ate toast with honey I didn't share. I went to work and built a dashboard for a client that showed them the story they were afraid to see. I rode the bus until the city stopped trying to make metaphors at me. The women reached out. Not all. Some vanished like mist under a brisk sun. A few wrote through his blocks to me via Instagram, the modern village square. They wanted absolution, context, a neutral audience for the version of themselves they had become. I gave one of them 5 minutes on the phone. She sounded 22 but said she was 30. He told me you were roommates, she confessed in a rush, and I had to laugh a clean, shocked bark. Okay, I said. Then you deserve better than us. She cried. I didn't. When we hung up, I blocked her and mailed myself a letter with a list of the ways men get away with it when women are kind. Therapy with a woman named Adele who wore linen like a conviction did not coddle us. She asked him to say his timeline like a filing cabinet. First contact, escalation, repeat, avoid, reframe, repeat. He did. She asked me to say the cost with nouns: sleep, trust, ease, appetite. I did. She asked him what he wanted. He said, to be a person I don't narrate to myself all day long. She asked me what I wanted. I said, to be with someone who can inventory their desire without outsourcing the consequences. We made a rulebook, boring and short. No private apps. Location shed not as parole but as penance. Weekly state of us meetings, 20 minutes, not a second more, where we list 3 things: real want, real fear, real ask. He learned to say I wanted to text someone else when my day felt gray, and not wait for me to turn it into a sermon. I learned to say I'm furious in a way that includes love and does not rely on spectacle, and not apologize for the volume of my feelings. It would make a cleaner story if I left. Sometimes I wanted to, if only to teach the movie an ending. But I stayed for now because the work looked like the thing I believe in: repeated, honest, unglamorous choices. I moved back into our bed after 2 weeks and slept diagonally because I could. He cooked, badly, with the earnest face of a man practicing new chords. He told his mother and did not call it complicated. He told his best friend and asked him to check his cowardice like a bouncer. He gave me his pay stubs without me asking, not because I am his warden, but because secrets had become expensive and we needed to go cheap for a while. Then came the marathon. A literal one, the city's annual. He'd trained with a group that wasn't just about running, nothing ever is. I went to mile 20 with a cowbell and a granola bar and a rage that had settled into something less noisy. He ran by and his face crumpled when he saw me, not because I had forgiven him, but because I was still there with water. A woman in the cluster behind him waved a sign that said, "Who run the world?" and I almost cried at the error. The answer is women who make lists under pressure. I set boundary fees. Consequence rent. If he wanted to stay married, he owed me administrative time back. He started doing the taxes, the insurance calls, the long hold music with polite killer instinct. He hated it. It was glorious. He opened a separate savings account under my name and put half his bonus there with no ceremony. He suggested a couples group. I said no to the circle sharing of confessions like trading cards. I said yes to 2 close friends coming over on Sundays to eat curry and tell us when we were lying. About 6 months in, boredom finally showed up like a decent friend. Not between us, between him and the adrenaline of secrets. He came home one night and said, "I had the impulse today," and then the impulse had an expiration date. He looked shy and 40 in a way that made me want to both hug and high-five him. I told myself out loud in the car, "Not today, you old algorithm." I felt stupid. Then I felt free. We ordered cheap noodles and watched a terrible game show, and I laughed so hard at something dumb that my sides hurt, and I realized laughter had returned without asking to be graded. People ask, "Do you trust him?" I trust the system we built more than I trust anybody's promise. I trust that my attention is my own and I am not required to be impressive to be chosen. I trust that I can leave and survive and that knowledge makes staying a choice. I trust that numbers tell stories and stories deserve auditors. I trust the version of him who is bored and chooses dignity anyway. I trust the version of me who can read a receipt and put it down and still eat dinner. I wrote to the woman I was 2 years ago and told her she is not an idiot for believing in her life. I wrote to the woman I might be 2 years from now and told her to keep a suitcase in the closet with 3 outfits she loves and a spare charger, not because she plans to go, but because loving yourself includes knowing the exits. I wrote to my mother and didn't tell her everything because she would send cousins. Last week I cleaned the whole closet and found a showbox I didn't recognize, a small time capsule with a split lid. I opened it like I open everything now in daylight. Inside were ticket stubs and Polaroids and a hotel pen. My chest tightened, then released. They were ours. Early years. A terrible haircut I'd chosen and he'd adored. The pen from the motel where we'd laughed ourselves out of an argument because the shower squeaked like it was haunted. Proof that once upon a time we made a mess exclusively with each other. I put the box back and labeled it Truth because labels matter and also because I enjoy the cheap satisfaction of a neat shelf. Tonight I'm sitting on our balcony with a bowl of cherries and my laptop balanced dangerously on my knees. His inside assembling a side table he bought us to apologize for a snippy comment and because he knows the only acceptable amends are ones that plug into a socket or hold a stack of books. The city hums like a power plant of ordinary. A woman across the alley is teaching her kid to whistle. It sounds like aspirations set to wind. I'm getting the hang of the instructions, he calls, and I say you always could, and we both hear the double meaning and neither of us pretends we didn't. He comes out with 2 spoons and a pint of ice cream and the face he wears when he's about to ask a brave question. Are we okay tonight, he says. Tonight we are, I say. Ask me again tomorrow. Ask me again forever. He nods. He eats a cherry. He puts the pit in his palm like a small, dark truth and holds it up to the light. He goes back inside. I set my bowl down, stretch my legs, and look at the sky doing that soft bruise before sleep. I don't need a grand thesis. I have this, a spreadsheet that balances, a home that doesn't lie, a heart that keeps books, a husband doing slow math, a woman who finally trusts her own numbers more than anyone else's story. And the next time a receipt whispers a story, I'll listen and then I'll decide out loud like a person who knows how to make sense.